I appreciate it very much. My wife and I have really enjoyed our day. I think it's important. People are taking photos, so be sure I get a good shot. It's important what you guys do. I must say, when I first came, my wife and I pulled up to the hotel, and as we're pulling up to the hotel, there is the Gazette, a local newspaper, but there's my picture. Not often you pull up to a hotel and see your picture. We apparently have arrived. We really appreciate you here today. I see a couple familiar faces, so thank you for being back. We appreciate that very much. I would like to have an opportunity to give you a chance to ask us questions, ask me questions. A couple things, wonderful community. And I know you know that. My wife and I have had the opportunity to be in similar size communities over a period of time. So I've lived in places like Macomb, Illinois, Warrenburg, and Pittsburgh, Kansas, and another place called Lawrence, you might have heard of it. I think there's a game tonight, if I recall. So for the women's team, we have a connection to Kansas. I've had a connection over the years, having both worked in the state and having two graduate degrees from Pittsburgh State and the University of Kansas. I did graduate with my wife's brother, who's now the head women's basketball coach at American University. Was the associate coach here at Florida State, Matt Corcoran, and so we've known Brandon, and I think he did a pretty good job for us. Sorry we stole it, it wasn't my advice, my school. But we're really pleased to be here. I know there's a lot of different people. It's just an important decision. The good news is when you're first, the good news is at the end of the day, you can honestly tell everyone, certainly among the presentations I've heard for the new president, his was the most recent. So I'm here, I'm the first. So hopefully keep that bar pretty high, and we all want certainly the very best. It's a wonderful institution, and know that sometimes it's easier for someone from outside to look and appreciate things that you have both in your community and in your institution. And so we've been involved for a long time. We're a little proud. We have 18 nieces and nephews, 17 in Texas. Now they're growing up and moving on. I've had a chance to watch 10 graduate from Texas Tech. Some with their bachelor's, master's, law degree. Some went to other schools in the state. I won't mention which ones. You can kind of figure it. Those 800 and 1,200 pound gorillas. Sometime that's going to happen. But we've really enjoyed this, and we just want to be here to what questions you have of us or of me. And I know if you don't, I'll tell a joke, so just go with it. Not all good jokes. What's that?
Do you tell us a joke?
I hope. People laugh, so that's usually a good sign. Well, let me say, you should probably pick up, I think it's important as a president to be visible, to be who you see is who you get. It's Michael Shonrock. And I'm passionate about what I do. I remind myself to do I take what I do very seriously, but I also remind myself not to take myself too seriously at times. You have to balance those types of things around. And so when there's opportunity to share some humor, you will find that I'm the type of person, if there's not laughter going on, there's something wrong. Someone back here, yes?
Thank you for being here. It's good to see you. We have a very strong tradition of shared governance at the institution, and I know all the faculty are excited to help you or the new president to advocate the best you can at the legislature and the Board of Regents. And I'd be interested in hearing how you view that relationship. What is it that you think that the faculty can do to help you advocate successfully for us, for academic programs, etc.?
Thank you. I had a great answer two hours ago. I'll try to get some of the same information because it's important. Shared governance, for those that understand, it's an important part of higher education, public or private, and the opportunity, from my perspective, to be sure that voices are being heard and that we're listening to your faculty. I'm a faculty member. And I also understand and appreciate the importance of the process. If you don't understand, process is critically important to academia. You have to provide opportunities for your faculty to have dialogue, have discussion, to have debate. That's why it's called the clearinghouse of ideas. and sometimes agree and disagree on certain types of things. It's been a very important part of my career and my life as a faculty member, as an administrator. I'll say that probably the one thing I've learned over a period of time about shared governance is that you have to listen. And if you listen, you can hear something. And so I would just simply say that in terms of my experience, both as a faculty member, especially in the College of Education, that's where I've done my, in fact, I was just teaching about academic freedom. I teach a law class. Academic freedom is important to shared governance. So hopefully we'll see how the students did on the test tonight. But I'm sure they'll do well because it's something that is in me, I'm passionate about. When you're passionate about things, it's important to you, you just do it, but it's the right thing to do. So just be sure the voice is heard. And be sure that you have opportunity. The other part, have the opportunity for people, there's formal ways by which you provide information to your faculty senate, other senates on the institution. You have to respect and understand and appreciate the fact you've got department chairs, you've got deans, you've got provosts. You've got to work within the system of things to be sure that every level people feel there's a connection. And then you have to prioritize that. So my hint to everyone about academic or shared governance is when you share those types of ideas, if you want to catch the attention of whoever the next president is going to be here or other places, focus, hedgehog, focus on those things that are important, make it something that is easy for someone to understand. This is the important issue. Here are the things we think about, and here are some things we think are important considerations for future solutions. You know, always give someone the opportunity to know the things that are important. Anyone can come up with a problem. Your job also, all of our jobs, to come up with solutions. I'm sure we get good pictures, sorry.
Awfully prejudiced, but I've been in the education field for 43 years. I was retired for about 20 years ago. Naturally, I'm interested in what happens to the College of Education here. It seems like it's kind of gone downhill. Of course, maybe it has in other places too. But when they brought in school administrators, principals, secretary principals, supervisors, counselors, and so on, they'd have probably 2,000 or 3,000 people on campus during the year for a 3-day workshop or a summer workshop. They don't do that anymore. Those people were the best recruiters you could have. Let's go back to their high school and talk to students about informed safety. I've got 2 degrees from here. Back when it was in Florida, Kansas State Normal School.
The price has gone up.
It's not here is that they don't have the money to travel on degrees like that. So they used to go to San Diego or Orlando or something. They'd be sure to get to Florida for a workshop. Decided it was a golf tournament or something that never traveled. They don't do that anymore. You've got to have that outward reach. I talked to my co-administrators, and they said they didn't hear much from you for you, but they didn't come for you. Now we go to Pittsburgh, to Fort Hays, to Wichita State, and it seems like those schools are growing, or we're declining here in the student. So there's got to be some kind of a parallel there that get us back in the business of loose teacher education. I don't know too much about the other colleges. I have 2 degrees in teaching here in Florida. And I just take to see it, let teaching go by this. Teacher college go by the wayside. I know other colleges are important to music and leading society.
Well, first, thank you for 43 years. Give him a round of applause. Thank you for your service. You've got more hair than I do, so you should do well. You know, that's every college, university, public especially, is going through difficult financial times. I know about the College of Education and your professional program. I watch your YouTubes. I know the incredible job you do in preparing students for education. We may have to think about that, not just whoever the next president, whoever she or he is going to be, how do we best help people understand, appreciate, and really recognize the great contributions that are there. That's where I'll say president particularly, but everyone has to be a cheerleader for the institution. And everyone has to have their talking points, have the information available so they have the opportunity to talk to a legislature, talk to the community, or on a plane, that they always are prepared to do the types of things that are important. And you've got great alumni, and you've got parents that are proud, especially those who graduated. Kids who graduated recently. So those are opportunities, I think, to really help get the voice about the good things that are going on. My wife and I have talked a while. Maybe you don't realize, but this is a really neat place, as you probably know. And we've known that. We've known the teachers' college. Of course, I don't want to show too much bias, but I'm from education. So, of course, I do understand the importance there. But there's a lot of great programs on this institution. And so you're starting an e-campaign, marketing. I think it's an opportunity to try to build on those types of things. And great, we've got alumni and friends who are always willing to provide insight and opportunities to help us think about things a little bit differently. I would be doing my job as a president of any college or university if I would say, not only thank you for your time and service, but we'd love if you could sponsor a scholarship. So folks, never leave money on the table. And I'm sincere, you've got to be, always have to have the opportunity, and mostly connected. Because when you see the faces of the students, it's kind of hard not to do it. So you've got to connect things in a way to personalize that communication. It's a really good program here. And if there are things that we can do collectively, there's a lot of good programs, how we balance those things off. Like I said, if you've ever seen YouTube, was it? Pretty cool. I was really impressed. So that's one mechanism that you've got to keep building. There's lots of other ways to communicate. And this generation is a different way of communicating than the former other generations. So just taking into consideration their parents and these students, they have to get information a different way. So, thank you. Yes?
If you were to come here, how would you get to know the faculty and the staff, and the programs, and the departments in an intimate way?
I'm hoping that's a good way, intimate.
Close. Yeah, close.
I think these are excellent examples. A president, a leader has to be visible. You can go through all the formal types of things. I sense it being early on. You have lots of expectations as a new leader of an institution, especially a president. Are there ways to have more forums with faculty, with staff, with students? I think those are very good ways, some focus group types of things, to get some feedback. People, and you also think about, it can't just be large, it may have to be smaller types of things. People all communicate and feel comfortable at different levels. And so partly you have to listen and ask others, what are the critical issues? What are the things they're talking about? I know this never happens, but people talk about people all the time. And I'm sure none of the faculty, I'm sure none of the faculty talk about the administration. I told a joke earlier, it was true. I remember one of my colleagues had been at the university for a long time, and faculty would sit around having coffee together, and I just happened to find a lot of faculty that are dear friends, and he's the old wise sage of the institution, been there for 50 years, and has just done all these things. They were going about administration this, administration that, and finally said, hold on, before we're too critical of the administration, let's think about this. Thank goodness we don't do all the administration we pay for around here. And so I think part of it is a reminder, you know who the leaders, you know the folks who are who others will go to communicate types of things informally, and identify those leaders early on, find opportunities like this to communicate. You just have to make the effort. And there are formal ways of doing it. There's a lot of technology. Yes, I can, tweet and text. I have an iPad, life is good, most of the time. So I think it has to be more personal and more one-on-one if you can do it. But when you're one person, you have to do the best you can with the time you have. And I think part of it is just have to make time. I get up early to leave late. Look forward to seeing you. Yes? Didn't hear that's good news. I'm thrilled. First and foremost, you have to understand all the priorities. You have a strategic plan. You have certain priorities you've already established. You have expectations from your board. I'm sure expectations from the state. I've seen the wish list of over $100,000. And so I didn't add it all up, I was afraid to. Wasn't sure my iPad could add that much. So I think if there are opportunities, get prepared. The bottom line is not wait for the opportunity to do. You have to work with your faculty, your staff, you have different groups from student organizations, your student leadership, you've got your faculty senate, you've got your staff. Those individuals have thoughts and ideas of how, if we have allocation or maybe the potential additional resources, where we can earmark that, but importantly, how it has the greatest impact toward the future of the institution. It's easy to say we're getting X number of dollars a year, but in these times, if you're really thoughtful about those resources, and in terms of, and I have to use the word sometimes, this is an investment for our future. You know, if it doesn't tie into your plan, if it doesn't tie into your long-term vision, if it doesn't tie into your capital campaign, all these types of things, you have to ask yourself if that's the best use of the resources. The job, I think, of the president is getting to know those legislators. Luckily, there's no politics in Texas. And our governor's been on the road a lot, so life's good. Stayed out of our business for a while. But in West Texas, he's fixed to come back. I think that you have to work collectively and just find out what those priorities are, and what those needs are, and where you have the greatest opportunity, and then work collectively with folks. You know, there are going to be folks that that's great, that's where we need to put it, and there's others say, well, we really need more here. You just have to do the best with the resources you have, but you have to be prepared for it. I'm an incurable optimist. I do believe there's going to be additional resources. We just have to be prepared for how do we reallocate those resources in the future. Yes?
We have a lot of community people here. One of the things I hear as a faculty member is they don't feel comfortable coming on campus sometimes. How do we make the town and gown work? How do we make our campus more inviting to our community?
I'm blessed to be in a place that we have a wonderful relationship. I've served as a campaign chair for United Way, board chair for United Way, chair of the board for the Chamber, Salvation Army, other boards. One thing I've learned over a period of time is just not, I do because I love to do it. I think it's the right thing to do in terms of something I want to invest my time and energy. What I find is sometimes even just like over here, you got to do it in smaller ways. You sometimes have to invite folks to come back out to the campus, invite them to events. There's always something going on. I know students, there's something going on. But there is always something going on the college campus. And so in those type of relationships, you may have plays, a theater type of thing, you have athletic events, you have other types of speakers coming on. But I think one is just kind of breaking down, this is a place we want you to be. And we want you to be engaged and find out more about what's happening on the campus. On the other side, though, you have to be visible in the community as well. And that's not just the president. Others have to be part of that as well. So we have to encourage, give folks the opportunity to be involved on boards and other type of committees and counseling. I've had the chance right now to help for the very first time develop a community visioning campaign for Lubbock, Texas. In our chamber, develop a long-term vision and strategic plan for the community. That's kind of exciting. Let me tell you how it started. It started with the people in the community. It's community-based. It's not all the other arguments. From that's the level you have to start. So I think it's just having people feel comfortable. I mean, I have reason to believe that some of you are friends. See it again. I'm hoping you are friends. Invite a friend. Invite a friend. I know that's not my phone. But tell them I'm doing a great job. I think it's a personal thing. So if you're a faculty, invite someone. If you're a staff, invite someone, and vice versa in the community. Invite people over. Make them feel a part of it. Engage them in different ways. It's a relationship. And we are better together than we'll ever be separate. And we know that the institution is an economic engine, and it makes a huge difference in this community. We also know we need community support to be sure that engine is running smoothly. And so how you balance those things is really important. Just got to be out to do this. Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here. Presidential selection always brings some anxiety. How do you evaluate the opportunity of change, and how do you implement change?
I lived in West Texas for a while, and I can tell you, I don't hard to believe that change is not really embraced well in West Texas. So what I really have, words are powerful. I talk about improvement. Most people understand how important improvement is going to be, both personally and professionally. And so one of the things is you have to help first ask folks, what are some things to improve, not change, What are some things that you think would help us to move in this direction? What would you think would be, and it's a different level, students, probably students will tell you everything. They're not shy. Asking your faculty and staff. So one of the ways I think you implement is people support what they create. They have to feel it's something that's really something they believe in. It's important to them. But more importantly, if you want to help improve, most of the time it's going to require, someone who, I teach future studies, I look at the future a lot. One thing I've learned is that you have to have, people have to have the vision, they have to be able to see how they're contributing to make a difference. How this is making a difference not only in the organization, but for them personally. Good person. Connect it in a way, connect the dots, and you'll be amazed how well people will respond. Some better than others. You asked lots of questions before.
I would like to ask if you could share a little bit your vision of branding and positioning Employee State in the global arena.
The global arena. That will be outside of Texas, right?
Yeah.
And outside of Kansas as well. Well, my sense is, and I've worked with it for a while, as we talked earlier, I've done some work with our international area. I know part of the strategic plan is growing international education and presence. Particularly I think China was one that was mentioned. I think the way that you brand, first and foremost, is how do you think people access? I don't care, undergraduates, especially graduate students, through your website. So is it a verbose web? Is it changing? Is there a connection there? Are there little things like click here to read it in this language? And sometimes it could just be a welcome from students from that country. There are little things. I mean, people YouTube all the time. So it's now, of course, you want someone to double check the student actually said what they told you they told you on YouTube in a different language. But I do think there are some things you can do to connect globally. And people have to also see other folks like them on your website, in your publications. They have to feel this is a place that really will connect with me in a way. Remember, they're coming from a bit of a distance. And so how do we then, this is where the community is critically important. I'm sure you do things with the local community, but, where they may adopt a student or two, and they can make them feel part of the campus and the community, where they invite them to dinner, where they make them to different events. For a lot of students in various cultures, that's really important. They feel a part of the community, not just part of the institution. So I think there's a number of things you can do to make that connection. One thing I say, ask the current students that are here, why'd you come? Why are you still here? And I also think, and I'll just say this, that there are a number of folks who graduated from this institution that live around the world. And are we still connecting with them? We learned the other day at our institution, there was a person from China, and they said his net worth, graduate from our institution, his net worth is more than Bill Gates. I'm thinking we should call him. I don't know, just thinking, heck, maybe it's worth a trip for someone to meet them. So we need to continue to follow and connect in different ways. I know you have a neat way of connecting with alumni. There might be an opportunity to do that on a more international level. I think it's also important to hit the faculty. Faculty need to be engaged with those opportunities, the opportunity to teach in those types of cultures and opportunity to do some research in those types of things. So if there is a way to do that, I think that's really important. And I would think that's a good investment overall for the institution. The world's getting smaller. And so we've got to find ways to help our students interact and understand and appreciate that it's a different world, different cultures. And how do we prepare them? We're not doing our job if we don't prepare them for a global society. So, yep. Yes.
We do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Retention of students is essential. Retention of quality faculty is also important.
Absolutely.
One thing we've been working on is tuition assistance for faculty and staff, spouses, and dependents. We'll struggle with it. We're still working on it. But could you tell me what maybe experience you've had with that, or what other ideas you have for faculty?
Professional development is important for faculty. The opportunity to not work all day, all night, which you're doing right now. Why do I have a reason to believe that you feel a bit overwhelmed and that you have lots of expectations? And how do you balance all? It's like the crystal ball, rubber ball. Unfortunately, the rubber balls are turning into crystal balls, and so you're afraid to drop anything. I've read something, maybe the bulletin, the newspaper about the tuitions. We do that at our institution. We determined actually, it it was a good business for the institution. It helped retain our faculty and our staff particularly. We got formula funding for it. We determined there was limited cost to us. Again, every institution is different, so you have to look at those types of things. I'm sure there are probably certain policies and procedures, there may be things with the board, maybe things with the state you have to review, but it's worth looking into those types of things, and it does help connect faculty and staff in terms of the overall institution. One of the things that's going to be important is fundraising and friend-raising, because you're going to have some additional resources to do certain things. I've got a lot of dear colleagues and friends who are faculty. I'll tell you that I've seen investment over a period of time. I fund 2 full-time positions in education. We reallocated resources because I saw the benefit. We saw an increase in special education, so we transferred money over. I understand the value of having those types of things. We want to grow our graduate higher education program. We provide funding for those types of things. But for my perspective, it's an investment, and I explained to the rest of our division why we're investing and reinvesting those types of dollars. So you've got to find ways of doing it. Why do I think the faculty might share some thoughts and ideas with me? In some ways we can do better. Whatever we can do to retain, just like retention for students, the best students you have right now is one right here. The best faculty and staff you have right here. So how do you keep them? And the brain drain, the loss of that is incredible for an institution, especially when you're trying to build your image and build a sense of why it's important to be here at Florida State University. Yes?
Do you have any thoughts on what your role might be personally with the recruitment of prospective students?
Well, you can tell I'm shy, so I'm hoping I'll get out of my shyness here. But I would hope that we had a good meeting with the enrollment folks before. I knew what my role was in the past. I know what role I asked the president over a period of time. You've got to be out there where you can. Really reading. You need to give out your business cards. You need to continue talking to parents. I think it's very visible. You need to be able to talk not only about all the strengths there, but understand the folks that are there. I always ask our admissions folks before we go, to the best of your ability, just like when you do fundraising, you have a profile. You know who you're going to talk with. You know who are we talking to tonight? Who's the audience? And what schools are they from? What type of activities are they involved in? So when you're discussing things, you're connecting with them in such a way. So that to me is going to be important, to connect in that way. My wife and I, we've done that on a number of times. We enjoy it. So I would see that would be one of the roles. As I told the enrollment management folks, that the good news is I know a lot about enrollment management. The bad news is I know a lot about enrollment management, which means I know what's possible. And we've been very successful at Texas Tech University. We've grown. I was given the great opportunity to be in charge of enrollment management. And when the board chair and the chancellor of our system actually do a transition, the president transferred it to me. And very quickly we had to turn things around. And I'm very proud. It was a team effort. It was faculty, staff, students, a lot of our staff worked very diligently. We went from 28 to 32.5 in 3 years. That's not bad. Helped the bottom line a bit. A lot more students. Boy, can they eat. Yes, sir.
I'm a community member, and I have an interest on the student side. I hear most of the input to this point has been faculty and staff, but my wife and I host students, primarily international students.
Thank you.
Glad to do it. It's a great pleasure. But last week I read that we're now at a point where student loan debt has exceeded credit card debt in this country. And then today I read in the Wall Street Journal that in the last 25 years, the cost of higher education has gone up 440%. You've got students coming in with knowing that they're going to come out with this enormous debt load, or afraid of that enormous debt load. And I would think if I were a student, I'd be thinking, well, for that kind of debt load, I want a quality product so that in this fierce global environment, that I'm going to have a maximum chance. So my question would be, as a community member, or somebody who might have a prospective student, is how do you align costs and start moving those in the right direction, at least from a student perspective, and the quality to exceed really what the global economy is requiring?
Well, one, I think there's a great quality of education at Florida State University right now. And you've got some wonderful faculty who are very passionate about what they do. I read the same thing, $100 billion, first time in the history of the United States, loan this fall, outstanding $1 trillion. This is the most embedded group. And so what we need to do, and we've done a lot of work with it too, is helping students understand the financial impact of the decisions they're making. So in terms of the community, one thing I'd certainly is how do we help not only the students but the parents understand. And so we pushed really hard about something called graduate on time. What a crazy concept, 4 years. I know for some of you that's amazing. But I think in terms of what we have to do is do, I think, a better job overall in public higher education, somewhat private education, of saying, here's the investment, here's that potential return, here's the things we're considering that we can invest in to help that student move on to the next level of college employment. I mean, how many of you have college-age students or have graduated? Weren't you thrilled when they graduated? You got a raise that day. And they said, graduate school. And we said, okay, we have to help our students and help our family members see that here's what we put into it. It's like taking the dollar and divvying it up in a way. Here's where the resource is. Here's how we're investing it. And I think the most important, not only access to education, but success in graduation, and then try to provide as much as you can to be sure they find opportunities for employment. A big buzz these days, and a lot of professional associates I work with, is gainful employment. You can no longer just get students admitted to a university, and we know how important it is to succeed in graduation, but we've got to be sure they're already prepared to find opportunities. I had a young man, I'll just give you an example, about 2-3 years ago, who he'd been at the university for 7 years, having a great time. Well, one of the things was clear. His mother had called and said, we've been paying tuition and fees for 7 years. He's going to graduate. And so, what can you do to be sure he gets a great paying job? Well, I won't say his major, but it wasn't one that was market driven. And he had a whopping 2.05 GPA. And this is a referral for one of our regions, so of course you follow up and talk with them. And when talking to the young man, and again, this is how you make the connection, I think, with the community. When talking to the young man, it was clear to me what his talents, what his strengths were. So I got him scheduled to meet with the folks in our career area to actually interview for sales positions. And he paused, he said, sales positions? I said, you sold your parents on 7 years. Something tells me you can do this job. He is doing extremely well in sales. He had the talent and the skills. So sometimes I'm saying we have to do a better job of saying as you enter, here's what it should look like. Yes?
I guess I was wondering, what reasons from a professional and career perspective do you have for considering this post?
My wife and I have talked about that in length. I would very much like to be of an institution. We had a chance a couple years back. We decided it wasn't quite what we wanted to do, and we decided we wanted to continue on with the family. The family's important to us, so obviously that's why you make the connection to sometimes stay in place. I really have a lot of passion for this, called public higher education. And I believe the experiences, the background, we're looking specifically at types of institutions and types of community. And we both have graduated from institutions similar to Florida State University. So for me, personally, you're still engaged in teaching. And student success is important. Those are the things that are important to me professionally. And I love Texas Tech. I love the institution. And we've had great opportunities there for the year. We're very blessed. But at one point you start saying, is it time? And you know that when you have board members saying, Michael, it's time to move on to be president. And you have the chancellor say, Michael, it's time for you to really consider this. And the president say, Michael, you really would be, you start thinking, hey, maybe I wouldn't be doing this. A lot of folks kind of think it's a good idea. So I've got a lot of energy. I've got a lot of things I really care about. I'm passionate about this thing called education. And I would love to have the opportunity to be in a place that I can make a difference, along with the team of individuals who are passionate about it as well. Yes, sir.
I wonder if we might be willing to hear from your wife and her thoughts about being a university first lady, specifically for Emporia State, and how she would be supportive of you in your position.
How would you support me and tell her how much you love me and all that? Continue to foster my income. How would you feel about the role that you might play at the university and supporting good team. Bottom line.
Well, I would feel my main job would be just to support my husband and what he was doing. But I'd also love to support the university in any way that I could. So I hope people would invite me to do things and want me to be involved in what you're doing. And if they did, I would love to do that. And I do a lot of community volunteering, so I would like to continue to do that as well. So.
Hint, hint, community people. Volunteer. Not bad if one of your volunteers is the president's wife. Thank you.
I'm not as talkative.
Yes, dear. Yes, sir.
We have over 135 student organizations here, and I was curious, not only what is your experience with student organizations, but more importantly, what role do you feel they hold in the overall vision and direction of the university?
Huge in terms of recruitment and retention. You create a certain environment, you're connected. I do recall a word engaged, and that E, and that's a really important part. I've worked with student organizations, I've been the advisor of our student government for years, and when I was at the first day, I forgot I've been the advisor for that as well. So I think that one of the things important is that we like to do things with students, and we like to get out and work with student groups. At one point, I've advised a lot of groups. So I think for us, it would be a natural type of thing. But remember, students, I know it's hard to believe. I hope you're enjoying your experience, that you're having some fun. Some fun. But that you can also help me, with 10 nieces and nephews who already graduated from Texas Tech University. I told someone, we've had a built-in focus group for a decade. So we knew what to do, and we knew the things that were important. But that engagement and that connection to the institution is so critical, because clearly, and you want to do anything you can to get people connected. Those alums that go out there and do great things, and those donors who have those relationships, they don't forget their time at Emporia State University. And so the best opportunity for you to build the future endowments of your institution is be sure that this generation is having a good experience at the institution. One thing we did in enrollment management recently, which is about how we recruit early, we work with our alumni association. It's called a legacy program, which means that if you're an alum and you pay a certain amount of money, you can sign your children up, and so that you can get birthday cards and blankets and T-shirts and all those types of things. It was very effective. It was a good investment, because I'm trying to think, how do we engage students even at that level? But one thing that was humorous is that we started giving little T-shirts for babies. Of course, it was Texas Tech. I'm sorry, I didn't have the E-T-shirts, so I couldn't give those out. But I was having colleagues at other schools, I'll leave nameless, you know who they are, who were seeing the little baby strollers in Dallas and Houston malls and saying, I see these babies with Texas Tech. I said, yes, we recruit early. I said, yes, but they're full scholarship students. They're very bright. So you guys haven't done that. Oh, I'm sorry. Student involvement, student engagement is important. And I'm glad that we have as many student organizations, and you should continue to embrace that yourself. The other part is, how do we get students to feel connected in other ways to the institution? We've had students help with recruitment, we've had students help with fundraising, we've had students help with every aspect, even reviewing all the committees and councils that I've served on. We always put students on there. Because a couple things, what you should. I mean, they are paying some of that bill. And the other part is they're always honest. They'll tell you how it is. And you can't ask for much more. Sometimes you get more than you want. Question? I think we talked with Esther before. My undergraduate degree is from Western Illinois University. I have several other degrees, but I will tell you that as an undergraduate, I majored in student activities and minored in school. And so I was very embraced, and I loved my major. I thought I wanted to be a teacher. But since that time, I've always understood and appreciated that connectedness to the institution. And that's so important. Because when you come back 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to come back and see your friends. And see the groups you're connected to. My hope is 10 years from now, you'll come back and see the friends you had on that floor of the residence hall, that's still there. That's not a good sign. If they're paying tuition fees, I guess we're doing okay. Other questions? Yes?
I appreciate your optimistic attitude. I think that makes a difference in anything we do. Finding a way of how to do something, which is what we can't pay. What might be some of your other positive attributes and some that you find some that are challenging?
I'm, actually, if you ask my wife later, and she can tell you, I'm very strategic. And when you're a strategic thinker, you think big picture. And one of the things you think the big picture, you look around and you can see. I can literally visualize. It's kind of crazy. My wife tells me all the time, I can visualize how things work and how they're not working, and it just seems so obvious to me. And so you can talk to staff and your staff, they don't see it. And you're like, what? Look! So I think I have a great vision. I think that's important. It's part of I'm a futurist. I teach graduate courses on future studies. So I tend to look at those type of things. But the other side of being a futurist is you're always optimistic, but when you're strategic, you don't always have the greatest patience. And so you have to learn a sense of patience. You have to learn when to cut back. And how to learn. Listening is going to be important. Learn when the timing of things. And one thing you'll find about me too is I'm not the type of person who's going to say, hey, have we considered something if I haven't already identified the resources to support it. That's important. You've got to tie those things together. So I tend to be a person who's very action-oriented. I like to be sure things get accomplished. I'm blessed to have a great number of people. I work with the Gallup organization. They're called Strengths, and very strengths-based. So it's important to me. You'll find people that find I'm very value-oriented. Integrity is critical. And character, I work with our students, every one of the books I give them every year is called Character is Destiny. Because I remind them as they enter their leadership role, you begin and you end with your character. And in between, what are the opportunities and challenges you're going to be faced with? I take a lot of psychological ownership of what I do. That can be good, also be tough. Because then you try to help hold that and try to figure out how to best use it. I think that for me, it's just really important to maintain a sense of optimism in the things that you do. There are tough times ahead in our education. Faculty, staff, everyone knows that. But what can we do? And I think the leader, I don't care what leader it is, they have to maintain that. So I think you ask folks, feel free to call folks. If you haven't, you will. That takes steps, that certainly would be fine. I think it's important that you learn about who the next folks are going to be and how, because it really comes down to fit. But there's a lot of things that I feel really good. But also I've learned a long time ago is have a good team of individuals and have folks that have different strengths than you. One I learned early on, I shared, I probably shouldn't, but I will, because you'll probably ask. The strengths is one of those types of things you learn your top 5. And so that's how the strength things work. There's 34 teams. And so I worked with the Gallup organization at one point, and I've shared this before, but some of it has been Mark Cohn, with the Vice President of Gallup, came out. We did this workshop for all of our staff and our leadership staff and mid-managers and frontline. And as Mark's going around, I'm in a group very similar to this size, and Mark walked by, and we got all 34. You don't usually get that. You only get your top 5. That's what you need to focus your attention on. So Mark walked by and goes, well, Michael, I see the number 34 is empathy. How do you feel about that? I said, I don't care. I said, no, my wife's number 1 is empathy. So yeah, I do care. But what I realize is that the strengths that I have need to be matched up with the strengths that others have. And I think that's the one thing I learned early on. You can't do it yourself. You got to find folks that are more talented and better in certain things than you are, and you got to keep them. Yes.
As I'm on the issue, one of the things that brings me back often is that my relationship with my fraternity. What do you have any experience with Greek life, and what role do you see Greek life playing in the future of college students?
Delta Tau Delta. I have, as an undergraduate, was very involved in my Greek affiliation. I have served on about every role. Used to serve on the Arts chapter for Delta Tau Delta, which is the national council, and so I'm involved in that. Big proponent that is one of those things that can be a great value to a student, but it's not the only thing that people like to get involved in as well. So I understand that may be really important, something that's been important to me. I truly do believe that a lot of relationships and a lot of the opportunities that I grew as an undergraduate were from the experience I had in that organization, with the student government, with activities. So yes, I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar with the great things that fraternities can do, and sometimes I'm also familiar with the things they don't always do as well. I remember I've been the dean of students before. I've seen about everything. I've been told about it, but some of it was even true. Yes. Okay, would you mind?
No. When is the new president scheduled to begin?
I start tomorrow. I believe that's really up to the board, and I'm not certain when. Soon?
Could be January. I think it's what they like, January, sometime next year, 2012.
Probably depend on when they're ready.
That would help. Certainly, if you're invited, it's a good thing. I guess I could just show up. I'm moving in. I met Ed. He seemed like a nice guy. He's probably flexible. He was thrilled. He goes, I can't wait, because he asked me, when can you start? I said, January. He goes, great. Come back here.
Yes, my question was, hypothetically, let's say you were named president, what would you do within your first 30 days?
Already thought about that. A lot of it has to do with assessing the institution, listening, asking questions. You know, I'm not going to be as familiar with Emporia State. It's been a while since we've lived in Kansas. So I think it's going to be important to really understand and build a relationship with the board. Be building those relationships with the community. It's going to have opportunities to talk to faculty, staff, and students, both formally and sometimes informally. I think it'll be an opportunity early on. Look at your, you have accreditation coming up for the institution. So, you know, where are we? I read you have 39 committees. I didn't see one on, probably one on accreditation, but it wasn't listed. So, probably be good to have that one. So I think that's going to be important. I think early on, working with, I think there's going to be someone new in the foundation. And so that relationship, why do I think with 150 years would be a good idea to kick off the campaign in terms of fundraising? So I think that's going to happen fairly early. So there's going to be a number of things. Why do I think it's going to take a little more than 8 to 5? I've been there, done that. So a lot of good listening, getting a sense about certain types of things, building those relationships early. And for me, it's building friendships. We've been blessed with dear friends in the community. And that's the hard part, folks. When you've been in a place for a while, these are faculty or friends. They're not just faculty hangout people. They're people that we were passionate about in the community. When your chamber asks you to be the new chair of the chamber board of directors, why do I think they might know I'm here today? But they know our commitment to the community, but they also know and what's best for us. So those are all things. Those are all parts of the relationships that. But we look forward to creating new relationships. We're pretty friendly. My wife's really nice. Yes.
Okay. Being a student, I think it's really important that the president is seen and known amongst the students. So what are some ways that you would interact and try to get to know students at the university?
Why do I think you could invite and introduce me to a number of other students? We talked a little bit about that earlier. You have lots of demands as president. You have lots of external types of expectations. You have a lot of internal expectations. But you want to be as visible as you can. And so I think a lot of it has to do with just walking around the campus. Going to student events, going to reunions is wonderful. It's a pizza that was good. And so students have to see you, and it shouldn't be, there's the president. Oh, there's the president. And they feel comfortable to walk up and say hello. And so those are leadership roles. You'll probably have a chance as a president to connect with them. My expectation of those leaders would be to be sure we can connect with other students, with other student groups, so they can see that. I can text. So life is good for you. I can keep up with those types of accounts to the best of our ability. So I think that's part of being visible. You need to see the president and other leaders. In fact, I'll tell you right now, I think leadership overall has to be visible. And I think that's going to be really important. But you have to see. You got to see that person walk around the campus. You got to see their events. We love going to events. We have a nephew who plays football tech. And so we love watching him. This is last year, so what do you want to miss any of those types of things? He's very talented. We played great against Oklahoma. Sure, we have a couple graduates here at one point or another. But it's fun for us to connect in that way. Remember, all of us at one point were youth, called students. So, it's been a few years, but yes.
Emporia State University was the founder of the National Teachers Hall of Fame, and the last three presidents have served as chairman of the board of directors of the National Teachers Hall of Fame. And would you continue to support the Hall of Fame?
It's a wonderful program, and yes, and that sounds like that's something presidents have been involved in the past. Remember, I am from college education, so I probably have a soft spot there. I think that would be a wonderful opportunity. But understand, my involvement is not just serving. I want to be sure I can contribute. Anyone concerned about something? Let me go back here to the students. Yes, sir.
In an institution so well known for teaching, how do you promote and encourage faculty productivity, research, and creativity?
Encourage, or I thought you said discourage. I got worried.
Encourage, certainly.
Encourage. It's a balancing act. You already recognize that you've got other great programs in library, in business, liberal arts. I think one of the ways, and you know this, is that there's been cuts. How do we allocate? How do we support those types of initiatives? What are the things that the faculty are interested in? You want to teach, but you also want to contribute to your profession. And the contribution to your profession is sometimes going to be publication, making presentations. I think one of the challenges is going to be for the next president, whoever she or he is going to be, is finding ways of allocating or reallocating, or more importantly, raising some funds so that those resources are available so we can support those initiatives. Among all the list of under 100,000 and over 100,000, there was a lot of things about endowing faculty, professorships, and chairs, and professional development leave. You just have to find ways to do that to the best of your ability. There's only a definitive bottom line. Where can you get the best use and where you can invest? And I think the other part I've learned, it's easy sometimes to invest with some of your senior faculties because of their, but you also have to be sure that those are moving into their tenure track. You got to give them the opportunity to succeed as well. And so sometimes you have to work with the faculty that says, we'd love to, can you do this together, or can we find a way to get this person this opportunity? Because we're creating the next generation of teachers in all the different disciplines.
Thank you.
Time for one more question.
Okay.
Yes. When the faculty met with the search company and discussing Emporia State the president, the words online and distance learning never came up, as they would not come up. Really deep. But in biology, sciences, if we feed students on native pharmacy, they will not accept which we agree with dramatically. However, I know your perspective, but we need to hear it again probably. Should we become a tablet or a laptop? What is your perspective on us becoming an extension of university?
Every institution has a place, as does the University of Phoenix. They are under a little bit of criticism right now. I'm glad that someone's looking at that paradigm, and if that's the best way to allocate and to support, and really I think to assess if there's learning occurring. My sense is there's a hole and a place for online education. It's very discipline-oriented. It's going to be maybe individual in terms of different colleges, different areas. I've always been a big believer in the hybrid type of things. I'm old-fashioned, so I like the inside the classroom. Remember that if you shift from that, you're also shifting the way people see you as an institution. That's probably something I didn't say. And I think that's an important thing too. As you move toward a different paradigm as an institution, that may change people's expectations and their sense about what you still believe in terms of teaching in the classroom. So I think there's a home for all those types of things. You have to assess which ones have the greatest opportunity for growth. You have to assess which ones will help move the university forward.
In this home here, in the sciences.
In the sciences, of the colleagues that I know, I've not yet understood how they can best provide online lab and online types of things that provide the type of interactions necessary. I'll just simply say the biology, which I think you spend some time with, and you help prepare students for medical school. I would much rather have a future physician who is taught in the classroom, my bias, who actually was getting hands-on experience and not virtual experience. Because I think there's some real value to those types of relationships. Again, it's a discipline oriented. I'm not as familiar with it, and I'd have to learn more about the program. I've got some colleagues and friends in biology at the institution, and most of them at this point have done the traditional method. I don't know how you do labs. That's a tough one. Again, you have expectations from legislators, from boards, from others, how you deliver those types of things. Just try to partner with the best of your ability with the community college and four-year school. We become pre for something. Honor students become pre something. And so you have to be sure that you provide them the best. And what's important, at least when I've written letters for students going to medical school or law school, they want to know how you really felt about the student. And it's not that you can't feel something overlying, it's just a little harder. And so I'm not sure how you best say, what a great student who is, all these things when you've not had a relationship in the same way. I tried online, it worked for me. Well, if you just stand for a moment. Thank you. First and foremost, thank you very much for being here today. This is a wonderful institution. I've said it over. It's easy for someone from outside to come in and look at what you have. Because you've read a lot of the material, you've learned about the community, you've learned about the institution. You're very proud, I know, and you have a lot of things to be very proud of. You never know what the future is going to have, but I will tell you that you are very fortunate. I really hope that whoever the next president is, whoever she or he is going to be, and this is here, appreciate what you have here. And appreciate the relationships that you have here. And have the opportunity to help build this image, build this reputation, build this place called Emporia State University. So we really appreciate everyone's hospitality. You've been great. It's been a great day. Some of you asked wonderful questions. Some were different questions. Now, some of you asked the same questions. I feel like I'm being deposed by an attorney to see if I get to write the same answer a second time. And that's okay. But I do think it's important that you've got a wonderful institution, and my sincere, we just want the very best for Emporia State University. Thank you for the opportunity.
The search committee wants to thank all of you for being here today and being part of this very important process for ESU. We now ask you to join us out in the foyer for some fellowship and some refreshments, and to continue visiting with the Shonrocks and welcoming them into our community for these 2 days.